there's the bell. That means the Norfolk Knitting School is again in session. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. You're watching Norfolk Public Access, and of course this is the Norfolk Knitting School. And I'm going to start with something that I had begun last week and said I would continue with, and I also have the socks. Now, I'm going to go as far as I can with the socks. If you don't know how to knit socks, you're probably not going to try to knit socks for Christmas. If you're sort of familiar, then this will help you. And if we don't get all the way to the end, we'll pick that up next time. All right, what I'm showing you here, I think I mentioned to you that a way to make a simple scarf that's in garter, that make it a little interesting, is to end it with these points. So I'm going to make some of these right now. I'm going to make one right now. And, okay, and so I'm going to show you how these are made and how you attach them to the scarf. Oh, before, actually, yeah, I may as well, yes, I should probably start with this. I tend to be a little scattered. So, all right, so you start off with just one, and let me show you this again. This is just a slip stitch. And you start off there. And then you are going to you're going to cast on, actually, let's do it this way. I think this is probably a better way to do it. Okay, no, this is, I'll work it right on here. So, and I'm going to knit into it and do an increase, like a sort of a very plain increase. And be sure that you don't pick up the long thread. I did that the other day, and then I'm going, I said, what? Where's the, and so I had actually, because I wasn't paying attention. And you're going to knit in here, and then you're going to bring this back on. And this is a way of casting on, actually. So now I have my 2 stitches. You want to give this a little yank. Now this is, now this is not particularly good yarn. It's a cotton. It's called sugar and cream. It's just a cheap yarn of the type I was telling you last week not to. Well, I'm going to have to start that over. I was flipped off. And a yarn that's wool or has some wool and acrylic in it is going to be. It's going to give a little more stretch, and you can sort of tighten it up a little better. There's acrylic and there's acrylic. The acrylic in France, which I believe is called polyamide, is vastly superior to what they used to have years ago when I was just starting to knit, or when it first came out, I should say. And it was just so awfully plastic. This is an acrylic here. This isn't too bad. This one that I have. This isn't too bad. This is acrylic here. This is acrylic, and this I think is also acrylic and wool here. So it's better, but it's really the nicest acrylic is what they have in France. So I've got my 2 little stitches here. So now I'm going to just. Sometimes it helps to kind of hold this other one back to kind of snug it up a bit. But again, this is very slippery. This yarn is very slippery, and when you only got a couple of stitches on the, okay, all right. And then I'm going to put this on here, and I'm going to knit across. And I'll do several rows of this, and then I'll stop and finish it, and I'll show you how to connect them to the bottom of your scarf. Okay, so. And of course, garter is knit every row. I hope I'm in a good place here for my camera woman. I'm very lucky to have Christina again. Because really, we cannot do this show if we don't have somebody who's good on camera. The other thing about this cotton is that there's no loft. There's no, if you remember last week I was showing you that, what I didn't like was that kind of fuzz that was covering that shawl that I made. Well, this doesn't have any of that. And so in this case, you know, every stitch is very visible. So this is, you know, would look better with a nicer yarn, but okay. So at the beginning of every row, I make that increase. I increase a stitch. And my little point is starting. I'll do a couple more. This is very simple. And so I just go like that. And you have to go back this way to get it lined up properly. Okay, all right. Okay, and I'll do one more, and then I will work on this on my own here until I get up. It won't be long, and we'll be right back. But let me just finish. I'll just do one more. Take it that way, and then knit across. And this works very well with garter because you really don't see that little increase on the end. Got a little knot in here. Oh well, it doesn't look like it's going to. So there I'm starting. I've started my little point. So I'm going to work on this, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to just show you my last row here. I think it might have been a little bit difficult for you to see because I was kind of struggling with the needles and that little tiny, you know, cast on. All right, so. Okay, alrighty, so now I have these three, and I'm going to join them. The bad thing about this is that you do have to, you know, wind these little threads in, and I can show you that too. And it might be best to just go right up, you know, right up the side. So I just I line them up, and it's really quite simple. And I just knit right across to start my scarf. Excuse me, let me just. Okay. All right. You know why else? Let me see if I can move around so this is. See, what I think last time I was knitting with circular needles, and that's why I like them, because you don't have these long needles in your way. So just knitting across. Okay, so that's my first point. It looks like I made an extra one here, so I'm just going to kind of cheat and knit this together. I think I made an extra one when I shouldn't have. Okay, and now I'm just going to kind of hold this, if I can, kind of give it a good snug, and just keep knitting across. Now I'm going to need to give this a yank, and then I'm holding it back here. And, you know, and again, with a nicer yarn, or even one of those yarns that's, has all the different, different threads in it, and strands, the one that I used for the I-cord last time. You won't even see this. Okay. All right, so there I am right here. Okay. And now, and it's interesting too, because when you do these decreases, and I think I mentioned it on the V-neck that I showed last week, it looks different on one side than the other, and there's really nothing to be done about it. I mean, it's it's just the way it comes out. I guess because you're going in one direction and then in the other, even though you're knitting across. Okay, and I'm going to give this a snug. And you see how loose that is, so let me pull that back, let me pull that strand in back. And again, once you get through this first row, you really won't have a problem. You just sort of want to hold it, kind of keep it firm. Let me hold that thing. Yeah. Sorry about that noise. That's the end of the needle scratching on the desk. Okay, all righty. Okay, so, and I'll just do another. I'll do another row across, and then I'll show you. I'll show you a simple way to bring in those threads. So now it's just garter stitch. I did want to mention, I mentioned this once before to you. When you go into a yarn store, now it's not going to apply if you're at AC Moore, one of those places. I mean, it just isn't, because this stuff is so inexpensive. And I don't think there's, well, I don't think they make that much money, but, well, who knows. But anyway, when you go in a yarn shop and you're making a pattern, you say to them before you buy everything, you say, look, if I run into trouble, will you help me? Now, if they turn around and they say, well, you can take a class, for $50, then just go right out, because a good yarn store is supposed to help you if you, okay, so we have a little gap here, so I'm going to really try to pull this one across. There we go. They should be willing for you to come in, not that they're going to hold your hand through the entire piece, but they should be willing to, if you run into trouble, to show you what to do. And we have a little extra time today because I ran out to buy the needles for the circular needles, the small circular needles for the neckline of this V-neck, and I forgot to bring them. I'm not even sure where they are. I brought them into the house, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. But I do have one other thing that I can show you that I've been meaning to show. Okay, so, okay. And you can then, as I was telling you last week, you can put a little button here. I want to put on either side because, of course, this is reversible. So now about these little strings here. So I have my yarn needle, and what I would suggest you do is just simply run it up through here. Just go under those bumps and run it up. And if you leave it long, I mean, I didn't really leave these strands that long, but when you get up into here, when you get up into here, you're probably going to want to make a little knot, which you just go in, just an ordinary knot. Excuse me, I'll lift this up in a second so she can see. Yeah, just a little knot, so that'll be secure. And then you can also continue to take that right up. But I mean, again, with this yarn, it's so loose and it doesn't have any, any loft to it, so that, you can see that. But, I don't know. I think that people will be so, thrilled to get a hand knit sweater that I don't know if they're going to. But, you know these people, and you will know. So, okay, so I'm going to, on this side, so I'm just going to go right up under there. And take this through. Let's see, this yarn has some drag to it. It has some, there it goes. And then as you continue knitting further up here, you can just run it right up into the scarf itself. And actually, I'm going to do this a little differently because I'm not happy with the way that looks. I'm going to try something different here. And, again, you will experiment with things as you go on with your knitting. I think it might look a little bit better if I just go around like this. Yes, that's much better. And actually that, that's a much better thing. We're doing this live. I mean, it's tape, but, and that's a better option because now it finishes off your little edge, which this doesn't. So you don't want to, we're not going to use that. And we'll do one more. We'll do the one over here. Yeah, I think that's much better. And then when you get to further up, you can just run this strand up into the scarf. Okay, so let's do this again over here. And when you thread these needles, the easiest way to do is to take it like this, pinch it, and then force that little loop. Okay, sorry. And then kind of mash that little loop through the eye. So I'm just going to kind of wrap it. It's almost like finishing off a well, not exactly a blanket stitch, but it's kind of like a binding off that you might do, say, on a rug. This is usually the way they just do an overhand stitch. I'm going to take it into that little hole there, and in here, and here. And then that sort of, crisps it up a bit. And of course I mean, if you wanted, and really, quite frankly, if you wanted to, if you're bothered by this, you could just take another strand and make a tiny knot down here, and again, you have to pull it through and do the same thing in here if that other edge bothers you. But I think this one's a little too long. I think I made these different lengths, but there is the, but that's what you would do. And once you've knitted across, get that out of the way. It's just going to be a regular. Now, if you want it on the other end, let's say you want it on the other, or let's say you wanted to do something a little different. You would, if you wanted to make each end pointed, so a point on this end, the straight scarf, and another point, well, you're just going to do the reverse. So I'll just do that now. So I'm just going to do a decrease here. And I'm going to knit the second stitch and pass this over. And I'll do that at the beginning of each row. And that will gradually go down to a point. Now, I was going to show you another flower this time, but well, you know, you have to know yourself and accept yourself. I had printed the instructions, and somehow, or maybe I was mistaken, somehow I didn't get all the pages. And so at the last minute, I realized I didn't have everything. So, but when we have the next show, we'll go back over that again, because I think, you know, a flower pin, a knitted flower pin is not a bad gift for, you know, like between, you know, women friends, you know, for Valentine's. And there's a number of little heart motifs that you can knit right into the knitting. Okay, so finish here. Okay, and so again, same thing again on the other side. So as you can see, I've decreased a stitch here, so it's going to go right up like a little stair step. And there it is. I'm just going to pass it over, and that's my decrease. And then I just go on my way with the garter stitch. Okay. So there you are. And so in other words, if you can visualize this, in other words, if you wanted to just have one point at the bottom and one at the end, this is what you would do here. You would just the beginning of each row decrease, and it will go right up into a point once you finish the length of the scarf. So, all right. Now, I'm going to show you something else here that, in a way, it isn't technically knitting, but I had mentioned to you before about using a commercially bought sweater and adding something to it. And we talked about the I-cord, which you could put at the cuff, you could put around the bottom of a turtleneck. I showed you a way to wrap it around and stitch it. Well, this is called, I think this is just called top stitching. There's another name for it. But what you're actually doing is you're just knitting right over the stitch. So I've done a few of them here. And it makes kind of a thick, you know, it makes a little raised place there. So you go down at the base, and I was working, well, I'm going to work it this way, and then through here, through the stitch, and it's going to cover, if you don't pull it too tight like I just did, it's going to cover the stitch that you just worked, or the stitch that's there in the knitting. Now, if you wanted to try, maybe what we'll do next time is we'll see about maybe putting a heart on something this way. So you would go in, down here at the base. I think that's right. Let's see. Just want to be sure you've got the. Okay. course, you want to only work with one strand. You know what else you can use? Now, I'm just using yarn here, but you can get something called crewel yarn. That's an embroidery yarn that's for like heavyweight embroidery. For sort of like, it's like to make like, it's almost like a tapestry effect. Or what's used in needlepoint. And those strands would be very nice for this too. So that in that case, you know, if you could, and you can buy, you know, they make silver. I mean, you can use really any yarn that you want on this. And if you've ever heard of cross stitch, you know, cross stitch is something that's just done on regular cloth, and usually it's like an X. You make a series of X's in the little square. But if you were to look up cross stitch patterns, the square would correspond to the stitch. I'm having a little trouble with this one here. Okay, there we go. That's better. And right under there. So you don't want to go into the next one. You want to go into that same stitch and let it kind of come down. And then back in that hole. And there. Now I did a better job here with the first ones. Sometimes I would get a little nervous when I'm doing these demonstrations for you, but these can be, but that's what it is, and it's kind of, okay. Now, despite the fact that I don't have the proper needle to show this to you, I can show you in part. Just move this here. Okay, this, you remember, was the little V-neck that I made, and I was going to show you the perfect ribbing, which I can't do because I don't have the circular needle. However, there is something else that you need to know when you're making any of these necklines, and that's called pick up and knit. And you want to be sure you don't put too many stitches in or too few. If you pick up too few, it will scrunch up. Excuse me. And if you put in too many, it will be rippled. It'll look terrible in either case. So usually what you do is you take 3, you pick up 3, skip a stitch, and pick up another 3. So you're doing 3/4 of the stitches are done. So I can do that with a straight needle up to a point here. So we can, and you know, it's kind of a misnomer, pick up and knit, because you're really not knitting. I mean, you're just looping, you're just reaching in and looping up a stitch. And you also want to be mindful of where, oops. You also want to be mindful of where you go in to pick it up. Now I guess I'm going to, okay, I think I'll start with the back here. So I want to take my yarn. Well, it isn't the knitting school without a little snafu here, so I don't know where the rest of that skein went, but I can use this. A little scissor. Oh, a little elf in the studio. Thank you, Miss Kay. God help us. All right, because this isn't the same weight as that other yarn. Oh, see, I had it over here and I shoved everything off to the side. You know, one time I don't know if any of you recall, but one time I had this sort of a spring-loaded scissor, and it went flying off onto the floor. All right, so, okay. So, Now, this is easy to do. You can see here, you can see those stitches, okay? So, now sometimes what people do when they make a V-neck is they leave them live, and then you just go right up and you just do the ribbing right on the live stitches. But I bound these off. It gives a little bit of a firmer neckline, you know. And actually, if you were going to put a collar on it, you might want to leave them live, and next time I will show you. All right, so I have picked up one stitch. And then so I'm going to go into the next one, and I've picked it up. And I don't know why they call it pick up and knit. I don't know why they just call it pick up, but okay, here's my third one. Okay, so I'm going to skip one. And you don't want to do this too tightly. You really, you just want to have it kind of, you know, kind of lying there. Okay, so now another one. And another one, and skip one. And that is pick up and knit. Now, once and you may say, well, wait a minute, I see a little thing here. Well, once you start doing the ribbing, this will close up. All right, so now I'm going to skip another one here. And sometimes, you know, you have to use your judgment on these. You know, there might be a case where you might want to pull the neckline in a little bit if you felt like you bound it off too loosely. So there it is. And that's what you'll see. And then when you go to do your ribbing, you won't even see those separations. Now let me go. Okay, let me go down to dear. Okay. All right. So that's very simple because you can see. Now if we go to here, and I'm going to trim off all these. Now, you know, generally, well, of course, I can actually what is good thing. Well, see, this is some old yarn, so this yarn is not in very good condition. So I'm going to cut that off. But what people sometimes do is they leave a really long strand. Instead of starting a new ball, they'll leave a really long strand because it will be attached, and then later they will add the ball to it. So I'm just going to use this strand here. Let's see if we can get some of this stuff out of them. I'm just going to pull that out. Okay. All righty. Now on this side here. You know, maybe it would be best if let me just clip this and work with the ball because I want to be sure you can see what's. Now normally you don't clip something off that short. Okay, all righty. So I want to bring it in a little bit from the edge, so I don't get this ugly kind of these stitches here. So I just take the point of my needle. Now, some people do this with a crochet hook, but then you still got to put it in the needle. So when you go all the way around, you know, you'll have picked up all the stitches. So there's one. Here's the second one. Okay, and kind of give this a yank. And you can always tighten these up later. Okay, now I'm looking here. This is kind of I think I'm going to go in there anyway. Pick that one up. So I want to have these, I want to have this, see, we've made the decreases here, so this is not going to be very, very straight all the way down because as we make the decreases, you see them here, see? So you kind of do the best you can to make as straight a line as you can. Okay, so I've got that. And now I'm going to skip this one here. In fact, I think I'm going to skip both of these because this is very kind of loose and sloppy, which is because of the yarn. Okay, and then I'm going to go in here. And as you do this, you will get a feel for where it should be. Okay, so now I'm going to, oops. Okay, so now I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to go in here. this one. And I want to snug this up a little bit, and this is awfully loose here. So I'm going to go into this one, and I'm going to go into this little one here to kind of pull that up, tighten that up, if I can get in there. Go. Okay. So there's what you would have. And that will be the edge of your V-neck. I'll just do a few more of these. Another one here. But what you definitely don't want to do is either do every stitch or skip too many, because then it will either, as I said, it will either be all rippled up or it will be, you know, gathered in. So that's you know, sort of what you want, is to get that have that little crisp edge coming down. I'll use this one. Okay, and then I'm going to take in here to tighten this up. Use one of the small, because the large ones are where the increases were. And then in here, and I'm going to. And also, when you will be able to see when you have finished, you'll be able to see if it looks, excuse me, if it looks like it's, oh my goodness. Well, sometimes maybe you might want to use there we go. Use a crochet hook to help you. And here, okay, and here. Okay. So it's not too bad, you know, not too bad. Now, this sweater here, I brought this sweater in to show you. This is a sweater, this is a sweater that I can't quite remember exactly what happened. Something went wrong, and I ripped it out, and I had the sort of the kind of gnarled up, the kind of crinkled up yarn. And I'll show you the inside here, and you can see, you know, some people would, you know, turn their nose up, and they would say, well, my God, what? Well, what had happened was, you know, I guess the moths got to it, and there were a lot of places like this one that I broke off here, but I was darned if I was going to just throw everything out. So, I mean, nobody's the wiser, you know. But, you know, so again, I want to show you these things so that you don't feel, you're not too hard on yourself, especially if you're a beginning knitter. You know, that you won't be too hard on yourself, and, you know, you make a mistake, and, you know. Now, this is a really easy way to do a V-neck, and here you can see where I picked up a knit here. This looks a lot better. See, that looks a lot better. And then here it is over here, and it always looks different on one side than the other. There's always one side that's a little smoother than the other. So what you do here is you pick up a knit all the way to the bottom. You work around, because that's what you're going to do on your circular needle, and then you go in here and you pick up a knit all the way into here. And so you're working back and forth, and when you're finished, you just sort of tack it down. And it doesn't look, I don't think it looks bad. And if worse came, you know, if worse comes to worse, you know, a pin always looks nice at the bottom of a V-neck. So, all right, now, okay, the socks. All righty, let me get myself together here. Okay. Now, so we put this aside. Okay. Oh, I wanted to show you this. You know, they make all kinds of things for to hold your needles, kinds of fancy things. I mean, this was just like a little a little makeup. Actually, no, this is not really a makeup case. This was supposed to go into a loose leaf notebook. But I like to be able to see through it. But this is Airborne, and if you happen to go to BJ's and you get the big case, you could put these you could put needles this size probably into it. So I just keep this. I have my So I've got my needles. I told you I had a lot of these, although the last week I couldn't find it, and I did find, so I'm keeping it in here. But this is like the perfect thing for it. Well, hopefully that's not necessary. No, it isn't. Okay, get rid of that. Okay, so now we're going to work on the gusset. So if you remember, this is where we ended up, and we did that back and forth. And it's actually like what they call short rows. So now we're going to go to the side where the yarn is attached, okay, which is now on the instructions, and what I've done here, again, because I am so dependent on these instructions, I really got to do something about it. But I made a big copy for myself so it was easy to see. So with the right side facing, but on the left side on this side, you're going to pick up and knit 8 stitches down along the left edge. Now, what I've done here is I've just put in the number that I need, but on the pattern, of course, you've got all these, everything's on there that, and what you really need to do is circle so you don't get mixed up. And the other thing about the way this pattern is written, there's some things that you do in one part that are similar in the other. And a couple of times I have, not paid attention. And I have a thing with me. Let me see if if I have it. I think I showed this to you last time. No, but it's a long magnet, a two-sided magnet that you clip on either side of the paper, and you just put it right where you want it. So this is what if you're not careful, you can kind of look down here, and say, okay, what we did was turning the heel. And so now we're on the gusset, but some parts of this gusset are similar to so you do want to keep, so anyway, I sort of transcribed it over here. So now I'm going to pick up and knit, and I'm going to use this needle, because they don't tell me to use it. So I'm going to make 8 stitches along this edge. So I'm going to start here and space them. Okay, there's 2. 3. Okay, so that's 3. 4. 5. 6. Oops. 6, 7, and 8. Now, actually, you know what? I'm going to go in here so I don't have too much of a hole there. I often have a little hole there, and maybe I will again with this time. A hole often shows up there. Actually, you know what? No, that doesn't belong there. That's the beginning of the ribbing. So let me go back. Okay, so you have 3. Let me put those together a little more closely. So, okay, so I'm going to start here. 1, 2, 3. I did skip a stitch there. 4. And again, I don't mean to be vague, but there is a certain amount of sort of feeling your way. 5, 6, 7, 7, and 8. Now, that number 8 is based on the fact that they told you to knit only so far up here. So if you would have happened to have knit this too long, and when you go to put 8 stitches in, you're not going to have enough stitches. So you do need to respect the measurements. All right, now, with an empty needle, now I'm going to knit. This is going to be my instep. Oh, sorry. This is going to be my instep. So I'm just going to knit right across there with an empty needle. So I'm going to snug this up and just knit. Now I'm doing stockinette. You could carry it down with ribbing. So I'm just going to go right across there, very simple. And just kind of make sure that these Now they make these little tips for double-pointed needles that you can buy if you are worried about these needles slipping out. But I think it's kind of clumsy because you know you're going to have these things on here, and I think it would make it a little bit clumsy. Now I don't see where my fourth needle went, so I'll have to pull one out of here. Okay, I have another one here. Okay, so I've knit across the end. Okay, now I'm going to, with another empty needle, now I'm going to go here, I'm going to pick up and knit 8 stitches again over here. So I'm going to start, let's see, I'm going to start there. No, you know what, I need to, okay, let me go here. Let me do this. Okay, 1. Oh no, that's too high. No, it's the same mistake I made before. Let me go in here. 1, 2. Now see, I like the way that looks, so I'm going to go right along. That's going to be my line there that I'm going to, you know what, I think I'm going to go in so I make sure I've got enough of a margin there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, okay, 3. Okay, I'm going to come up here 4. 5. Now you can see I am skipping some of these little 5, 6, and I'll just go into each one that's remaining here. 7, 7, and 8. Get in there. Okay, go. This can be a little, you know, a little bit. It's not that it's. There you go. Okay. All right. So 4 and 8, and then I have the 8 over here. Okay. All right. And now, okay. So this is needle. So now you see I've got an uneven. This is always going to stay the same. This is needle number 2. That's always going to stay the same. Now I've got too many stitches over here. So, and if I didn't make a mistake, I'm going to take 5 stitches from this needle that I'm going to knit. I need to get my other needle. It's here somewhere. It just, let's see. This is another thing. I've got all these. I'm probably not as careful with my supplies as I should be. Okay, so actually this needle isn't really the right size, but we'll be all right. Well, actually, it's not too far off. It's here under things, I think, somewhere. Okay. So now I'm going to knit 5 stitches from what they're calling needle 1. And if see, in the beginning of the pattern, see, they talk 2, 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's, I don't know, but that needle 2 is always going to be fairly, it's going to be pretty stable. And you're going to be mostly doing all that shaping down here. So, alrighty, so I'm going to knit 5. So, oh, no, sorry. I need to do it this way. Sorry, let's use the same needle. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's see if this is right. It doesn't look like it might be a little bit. Okay, let's count here. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. God help me. All right. Now this was, let's see, this is needle, yeah, this is needle 1. Okay, so now I'm going to take my other needle here to knit with, And I'm going to go across. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to begin oh, I don't even have a sock to show you. But I'm going to begin that little sort of, it almost looks like a little dart. It's not a dart because a dart is something that you fold over in knitting, but it's going to shape the side of the sock now. So, okay, I'm going to go across here until I come to 3 stitches. And I think that most all of the sock patterns you see are going to be done like this. Okay, so I'm knitting right along here now. Okay, and these stitches are a little twisted, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to go until I'm back at 3 stitches. And then I'm going to knit 2 together. And this is, it's kind of tight in here. This is a wooden needle, so hopefully, there we go. Ah, good. Knit 2 together. And, oh, let me get it back there. Sorry. Sometimes, and knit 1. Okay, all right. Now, I'm going to knit straight across. Of course, this is always easy. I very rarely do I go anywhere without, if I've got some knitting, and take it with me. And the socks are so small, they're just perfect. Or a scarf, which you can kind of bunch up in your lap. But, and it's funny, people don't seem to, I don't think people consider it rude. They probably figure you're making something for somebody. Thanksgiving is this week, and, but it's a good thing to have if you, if you're not enjoying the conversation. All right, now on this one, over here, see, I did my decrease here, so now I'm going to do it at the beginning here. Oops. So I'm going to do knit 1. Now, I'm going to knit 2 together through the back loop, which is actually easier, because I want it to go at a different angle, the decrease. Okay, there we go. And I knit to the end. And now I knit around every row. So there I am. And now I'm going to just, oops. I'm just going to knit around one full row and then do those decreases again. So I mean, I feel bad that I was wondering if maybe I shouldn't have, just done the whole sock in one show. But I did want to show you those other things, and again, if you're learning, I still feel at least you did sort of. I don't know if you can kind of see there where the little decrease is coming in there. And I think it's always helpful to watch somebody. But definitely, if they kind of, hedge and, are kind of iffy about wanting to help you, I would not shop there. You have to be bold. You say, look, are you, again, if I have run into trouble, I can come in, right? And if they say no, you say, well, you know what, I'm a little undecided. And they'll know. Maybe they won't do it with the next person. Be a little more generous, okay? And now I'm going to go over here. I don't know if you can see that little decrease there. And we're just about at the end of the show, so I'm just going to finish these 13 stitches. Ooh. Oops, that's all right. Okay, so there it goes. There it is. And now we're going to go through there and until we get down to fewer stitches, and then we're going to just go right out there. So I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry about the fiasco with the circular needle. But I think we did get a few things done today. And again, if you have any questions or any comments, my email should be on the bottom of the screen. You've been watching Norfolk Knitting School. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone. And of course, we're on Norfolk Public Access here in Norfolk, Massachusetts. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great time. And thank you for watching.